I'd like to thank you for inviting me on the show. It's such an honour to be here, and I'd just like to say that when I'm not playing Xbox with my mate Thor, I really like to listen to my favourite podcast, Pop Culture Pasta. Hey, Doug! Doug! Oh, that's right, Doug's dead.
Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, Cody. I got to tell you, we're going to start this show off on a bad foot because I'm a little upset. I'm a little grouchy. Sometimes I'm known for my fashion statements.
You are.
I am, and I had this idea long ago with my Castle Grayskull. I thought I would show up to a nice event wearing Castle Grayskull on my head. And Jaden Smith just completely stole the idea. Didn't even look happy to do it.
No, not at all.
Dude, what was that?
It was a choice.
It was. Did he explain it at all?
I don't think so.
If you're not aware of what I'm talking about, Jaden Smith showed up to the Grammys wearing a castle on his head.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, I thought there'd be some explanation, or that it was like he was, it was like some protest against castles.
I like to think he was just trying to block the view of the people behind him.
Who was sitting behind Jaden Smith? Surely that person is posted on social media somewhere.
I hope.
That person did an Instagram reel or something at some point. We need to see that. We need to get a hold of it. Hello. This is Pop Culture Pastor Podcast. My name is Dave. Cody's here.
I am.
And we've got a lot of news to cover tonight. This is a Be Kind Rewind episode. We're going to talk about Captain America First Avenger as we kind of get ready for Brave New World Order Red Hulk. I'm not sure what the name of the movie is. I'm not even sure who's in the stinking movie anymore.
Harrison Ford.
Harrison Ford is in it. You sent me an article today I could not believe.
I was baffled. And I was angered.
So for months, years, Cody has the only reason he's been excited at all, because Cody's a DC guy.
I am.
But he's been excited for the Captain America movie for one reason and one reason only. Because Seth Rollins, WWE wrestler Seth Rollins, was in the movie.
Yep.
And, the movie's been rewritten so many times. At some point, it became clear he had been written out of the movie, or at least that's what we thought. But then you sent me this article today where the director was being interviewed, and that is not what happened.
He made some choices. Like, I would have said there was a bad rewrite.
Basically, he just admits that Seth Rollins filmed all his part. And then at some point when they brought in Giancarlo Esposito, they just said, "Ooh, he's much better. Let's let him do that part." And just dropped my guy, Seth. Dude, what is that? That's not good. Has that happened before? That sounds terrible.
I feel it happens all the time, but just because one of us was really invested into Seth freaking Rollins.
I feel like
that's his wrestling name.
I feel like Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' legal team's going to say that was Justin Baldoni's fault. Yeah, he did it.
I'm not ruling it out.
That was a Hollywood court case joke.
Because that's what we're about here.
Yes, that is totally what we're about. Okay, we're going to start off. It's funny we talked about Seth Rollins because I thought we would start off by recapping a little bit, talking about the WWE Royal Rumble.
It happened.
And I watched it.
And we had a geek of the round table there.
Yeah. So Cody and I got invited over to DJ's house. DJ is our documentary geek. And we watched the Royal Rumble. I hadn't watched a pay-per-view in a while. It's been a long, long time.
Since they stopped calling them pay-per-views.
Yes, exactly. PPEs?
PLEs.
PLEs? What does that stand for?
Is it primary live event? Something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. I think other than like WrestleMania, which is a standard, that is a prime PLE, huge deal. It's like the Super Bowl.
It's a 2-day event now.
Yeah. I think other than that, I think the Royal Rumble is really, really cool. Mainly because of the way they do it with, you start off with the two guys in the ring. And then what is it, every 5 minutes?
I think it's now every 2 or 3.
Every 2 or 3 minutes, another wrestler gets introduced and gets to run down and join the fray.
And run they have to.
Yes,
it's a long path.
It was like 1.5 miles, man. And if they get thrown out of the ring, they're eliminated. And so I think it's just genius because, one, it allows for these huge pops, is what they call them, the pop from the crowd. So especially if you're a returning wrestler, like they haven't seen you in a while, or, some sort of surprise, man, they really got some big pops.
They did. And our friend Scott Patrick Dillon was amongst the crowd that was getting to witness that in person.
Geek of the Round Table, Scott Patrick Dillon was there?
He was.
No way.
He got to meet Damian Priest.
Okay, refresh my memory. Who's Damian Priest? Because it sounds like the dude who was on Young and the Restless and sang that song. No, not that. Who's that guy?
That's a good question.
No. Rock On. He redid Rock On. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. No. Damien is the one that has the Undertaker nickname that I'm not going to say on here. He's super tall. He choke slams. He used to be the champion, but then he got defeated.
By the way, the guy that was saying Rock On, it was 1989. That was Michael Damian.
Oh. Interchangeable, really.
Yeah, really.
I don't know if Michael Damian's Puerto Rican and from New York, but...
No, he is not. So, yeah, Charlotte Flair was one of those surprise returns, right?
Alexa Bliss as well for the Women's Rumble.
Yeah, which one did you think was better? Because I've read some things that some people thought the Women's Rumble was better than the men's. Or at least more unpredictable, more surprise appearances, which is what at the end of the day, people kind of like.
I told you and DJ that if and when, and it's most likely a win, Charlotte Flair enters, Charlotte Flair's winning. So that wasn't a surprise.
He did. He called it. I just have to go there because I have no idea what's going on.
The quality of the Women's Rumble from start to finish, I think, was pretty consistent. Good. Mm-hmm. The men's, there had been writing on the walls that Jey Uso could do it, but with him losing a heavyweight title shot a week or two before this, it didn't make sense that they would be like, oh, we're going to put Jey over again.
Yeah, they did. Jey Uso won the men's Rumble throughout John Cena. Because that was the predictable thing, was that John Cena was going to win. John Cena also looking like, my stepdad circa his 50s.
Nailed it. But the predictable thing, and it happened this week, Jey Uso has called out not Cody, but he's called out Gunther.
Who's Gunther?
Or Gunter.
Who's Gunter? Not the barista from Friends.
Not the barista from Friends. I think he's German. He gives these wicked backhanded slaps like Ric Flair, but it leaves welts and just a mean-looking hombre. That sets up, because there's one PLE before WrestleMania, and that's Elimination Chamber. If Jonathan Cena wins that, him and Cody Rhodes headline the big night at WrestleMania.
Surely that's what's going to happen, right?
I like to think John Cena will be close to winning the Elimination Chamber, and then yet sabotage happens.
Yeah.
Because for years, John Cena has been pushed to try to pass Ric Flair's record of 16-time champion. And John Cena's like, no, that's Rick's. I'm not going to do that. I honor the legends. I don't see him switching that stance now.
Yeah. Speaking of Cody Rhodes, who you mentioned, he retained his undisputed WWE championship by almost killing Kevin Owens.
It was gnarly looking, but KO had done some similar looking things to Cody, but just not off of a ladder or an announcer's table like that. So
it was wild. is wild. I watched that and I'm just like, I can't believe this. First of all, you can say it's scripted and fake all you want, but
The bumps are real.
the bruises and the bumps and the near injuries are real, you guys.
So it was an announcer during the pregame and post pay-per-view. His name's Big E. He had a neck injury and he can't wrestle anymore.
Yeah.
And so
You hear that a lot, actually.
It is very serious. I would caution people with saying it's fake with it's a predetermined outcome. That's how I always word it. They know who they want to win. But some of those, like the chops I was talking about, those are real chops. Guys have broken blood vessels in their chest after going against Gunter.
Yep. I gave Cody a chop before we started recording. He's got a big handprint right now across his cheek.
It happens. But
how's your face?
hot.
What? What?
It burns. But yes.
That was weird.
It really is very dangerous and very athletic.
Yeah.
So don't say it's fake. Say it's a predetermined outcome.
I think my favorite part of the night was like, look, I was entertained pretty much throughout because, you know, I don't really know what's going on. I know some of the characters, but I obviously been out of wrestling. I haven't followed it in a long time. But I think my favorite part was you had to tell me who he was, but this I Show Speed guy, who was a YouTuber and rapper apparently, and he's like backstage, and Akira Tozawa got hurt.
Yes, he got attacked.
Yeah, he got attacked, which obviously, right? And so Triple H, who's Paul, he said, "You're in, kid." And he went running down there, like they played his music. He got all excited, and then he just got absolutely. This is like real, bro. He got leveled by Braun Breaker,
which was awesome.
I mean, like, look, you saw the video I sent you? There was a reel backstage where what's his name, the other YouTuber, Logan Paul was checking on him because like. So it's backstage. They're not being filmed anymore. So it's not fake. And the dude, I Show Speed, is like holding his chest. It looks like he's having trouble breathing. And Logan's like, "Man, are you all right? Are you all right, man?" And then he shows him his leg. And there's like a chunk the size of Rhode Island missing out of his calf. And he's like, "Oh!" I was like, wow. How much do you think he got paid for that appearance?
I don't know if he had to get paid something.
Sure,
but
he did, yeah.
Part of it is brand promotion for him.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I doubt that he got paid a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But the brand promotion and the video of all the stuff, he's probably getting enough pay.
Yeah. Other pop culture news. Is there anything else you wanted to say about the Royal Rumble?
I really wanted Braun Breaker to win.
Yeah, I didn't know his dad was Rick Steiner.
Yeah. Also, evidently, LA Knight caused Drew McIntyre to get eliminated earlier.
Yeah, I saw that.
What he was supposed to, and Drew McIntyre was not happy, and evidently other wrestlers were upset with LA Knight because he had messed up the timing of certain things within the Rumble.
I mean, he's named after a lame 80s shoe. So
L.A. Knight.
Not BK.
Yeah.
Not BK Knights. Yeah. I think that was a shoe. I don't know. They tried to be popular. So if I'm wrong, someone will point it out.
They will.
Yeah. I'm wrong at least a couple times a podcast because my memory doesn't work quite as well as it used to. And someone will be in the comments being like, "Dave, that wasn't BK Knights. It was something." Someone will have it.
Phil Knight.
That's the Nike guy.
It is.
So the Grammys happened.
Oh, before we get to the Grammys, there's Severance news.
Oh, was there?
Yes.
What was the news? Did I miss it?
Oh, I sent it to you. The guy that plays Rickon did the audiobook reading of his book. I've listened to the first 15 minutes. They released the first 8 chapters.
That's incredible. If you're not watching Severance... If you are watching Severance, you know Rickon is the lifeblood of the comedy of that show. Like, first of all, if someone told you the premise of Severance, and then I told them I laugh at least 3 or 4 times an episode, it's such a great show. What a great show that can really present this kind of thriller vibe. What's going on? It's a mystery. It's kind of scary on some level. And then there's so many comedic actors in this, and this has to be intentional. That there's these moments where they ease the tension by just the character being funny, and Rickon, who is the main character, Adam Scott, his brother-in-law.
Yes.
Who writes this like really crappy self-motivation book.
It is great. And how bad it is.
He is, commonly just a hilarious addition to this show.
And he's only on screen for at most a minute and a half each episode.
Yeah. I want to be Rickon. I don't want to be the me that I can be. I want to be Rickon.
Yes. So Apple Books, you can download the ebook version or you can download the audiobook. The audiobook's actually read by the guy.
By the actor.
And I'm like,
in character.
Yes.
That's unbelievable.
I
got to
here
hear
for
this. I got to hear this. This is amazing. There's some marketing geniuses going on with the Severance right now.
Yes. And that's why I had to stop us before we got to the Grammys.
Yeah. Could you tell me why Olivia Rodrigo, Taylor Swift, and Sabrina Carpenter had been beefing? Because I'm reading a headline here that says they declared peace at the Grammys this past few days. Do you know why they were beefing?
It's weird that Taylor would be beefing with Sabrina because Sabrina was on her tour at one leg of it.
This is from Glamour magazine.
Okay.
It says this. Rodrigo's breakout hit Driver's License references losing her boyfriend, her High School Musical, the series co-star, Joshua Bassett, to an older blonde who was possibly definitely Carpenter.
Okay.
So it wasn't exactly a diss track, according to Glamour, nor were Carpenter's two songs about the situation, Skin and Because I Liked a Boy. But at the time, it was hard to imagine the two Disney starlets being friends.
Where does my friend Taylor come into this?
Meanwhile, Taylor Swift and Olivia Rodrigo apparently had a falling out some years ago over songwriting credits. And when Swift invited Carpenter to be an opening act on the Eras tour, it seems she'd taken a side.
Yeah.
Taylor's just catching strays from just being on a side of all these things. So she's like prominently being named in the Baldoni, Blake Lively stuff.
Weirdly.
Yeah. But apparently they were all seen talking and hanging out at the Grammys. And so TikTok fans are celebrating the end of the pop Cold War.
It was so cold I didn't know it was happening.
We can tear down the walls of your Berlin heart, Cody.
Did we call David Hasselhoff?
We need the Hoff immediately. A Connecticut lawmaker. This is great, Cody, by the way. A state senator in Connecticut from New Haven, Connecticut. Senator Martin Looney proposed bill number 797 on January 21st there in Connecticut in an effort to, quote, require that each movie advertisement or listing include and separately list the scheduled start time for the actual movie, trailers, and advertisements that precede the advertiser-listed movie and the advertiser-listed movie. That's the law. To make a long story short, because that's a lot of legal speak there, he wants... So the time that you're starting, the stuff, which is the trailers and the advertisements.
The 7:15 time.
And then the actual time the movie starts, which usually, if we're being honest, the movies I've seen lately, it's like 20 minutes later.
7:37.
He says it seems to be an abuse of people's time in an interview with the Register Citizen about his proposed bill. If audience members want to get there early and watch the promos, they can, he added. But if they just want to see the feature, they ought to be able to get there just in time for that.
Dude's doing the Lord's work.
This is exactly what I want my lawmakers to be focusing on. This is the kind of stuff, like we're paying way too much attention to Trump. Look at this guy. We should be paying attention to this guy.
He should be making a bigger splash.
Connecticut, do the right thing. Get this guy to the federal Congress immediately.
And also pass this bill so other states will pass it as well.
Finally, I have Jesse Eisenberg news.
Hey, he's still with us.
Well, you got really excited there for Jesse Eisenberg. Otherwise known as the worst Lex Luthor ever.
His career did take a nosedive after that.
To be fair, not his fault. That's just really bad casting.
I honestly think he's a great actor.
Yeah, I think so too.
It was a weird choice.
This is not a story, however, about great acting.
No!
This is a story, and wait for it if you haven't heard it before, probably about virtue signaling.
Oh.
During an interview with BBC Radio, released on Tuesday of this past week, the actor who famously portrayed Facebook and Meta co-founder Mark Zuckerberg in The Social Network, he said some disparaging things about Zuckerberg and basically said, well, I'll just let his words. He basically said, I don't like being associated with him. He said, quote, I haven't been following his life trajectory, partly because I don't want to think of myself as associated with somebody like that. He said this in the interview. He says, he goes on, it's not like I played a great golfer or something. Yeah, Tiger Woods' character is much better, I'm sure.
Potentially.
Potentially. It's not like I played a great golfer or something, John Daly.
Yes!
It's like this guy that is doing things that are problematic, taking away fact-checking and safety concerns, making people who are already threatened in this world more threatened. Now, Cody, I loathe the politics. I just do. But this kind of stuff bothers me too, because I'm just like, one, the way he's wording this, he didn't take away fact-checking. He changed the way they check the facts, made it community-oriented. Some people think it works better. I don't know. We're still kind of waiting on the product of it, right? X is doing it. Seems to be going okay-ish.
At times.
Yeah. But it does take the fact-checking out of the hands of one controlling unit, which, frankly, seems to me like it could be corrupted easier, and puts it in the hands of the community. And I don't know. There's going to be no perfect way to do it, but I think it's worth trying. My problem with stuff like this, Cody, is he bad because he's rich? Because he did something? Like, I find it weird he didn't say that during his promotional tour for The Social Network, where he was portraying a dude who basically started a company that was rating women on their physical appearance.
And maybe during the making of that movie, he was like, well, this guy isn't a hero. And then further events solidified, well, I don't want to be associated with him. And honestly, when I hear Mark Zuckerberg, I don't think Jesse Eisenberg. And when I hear Jesse Eisenberg, I don't think Mark Zuckerberg.
And then there's that.
Now you see me, now you don't.
I think of Adventureland when I think of Jesse Eisenberg. I think that was his best movie. I like that movie.
For me, his best movie was The Squid and the Whale. But if you're not an indie film viewer, that's on you.
But if my point is, if he wasn't all that concerned about being associated with him before, and he is now, what changed? Well, he goes on.
Oh, I was going to say money, a paycheck, because he wasn't super big when The Social Network came out. Like, that would let me act as someone else.
Yeah.
If I got some cheddar.
Let me tell you what he said. Eisenberg goes on. I'm concerned just as a person who reads a newspaper. Now I know he's lying. Ain't no one reading newspapers. Stop it.
Jesse strikes me as the kind that would.
He specifically mentions that he went to the Trump inauguration and that he seems to be conservative in politics, maybe leaning conservatively. Now, listen, I know there's a lot of venom in the political conversation and sphere these days, but can we just not do this thing where there was only, listen, by and large, this is coming from someone who did not vote for Trump. I'll say that right off the top. But there's only two choices. Can we not vilify the half of the country the entire half of the country that voted for the other guy.
I will also say that some of the dialogue lended itself to billionaires supporting the particular party that won. And so, like, if I was in that social structure, I might be like, yeah, sign me up for all the rallies so that way I get to keep more of my money.
He did specifically, Eisenberg said something about Zuckerberg. He said, I don't think like about, I played the guy in the movie. It's just I'm a human being, and you read these things, and these people have billions upon billions of dollars, more money than any human person has ever amassed. What are they doing with it? And he says, they're doing it to curry favor with people who are preaching hateful things. Okay, it was like, it's okay that if you think that, but how do you know Zuckerberg's not donating lots of money to charity, which I think he actually does. Bezos, that's a whole different ball of wax.
Ex-Mrs. Bezos, yes.
Yes, Bezos is just proxy of getting a divorce. Now a lot of his money is going to charity, but I'm pretty sure that Zuckerberg has donated quite hefty sums of money to lots of charities.
And I think if you are of that independently wealthy structure, you probably should.
Look,
just for PR.
All I'm saying is this. Do I know if Mark Zuckerberg's a good dude, bad dude? No, I don't. But this whole thing where we try to win points by burying someone else that's a name and people know and is in the spotlight, I just think we got to stop looking at ourselves as good people. They're just people, and people are broken, Cody. We all have places we could improve and get better. And I understand the media plays this game where we gotta put everything in the standard of good versus evil. But can I tell you that the world is mostly not that way? There are people out there doing evil things, but by and large, the vast majority of people are just broken people.
This goes to a point that my dear friend DJ Dangerfield mentions quite a bit. Whenever someone says, like, I don't always agree with what they say. Of course you don't.
Right.
Like, there are things that I know that my friend Jackson, who has been on the podcast 100,000 times, has said that I'm like, well, I don't agree with that. And he would probably tell you, Cody has some of the stupidest opinions out there. And
I mean, of course you don't agree. He thinks Kurt Russell's the best actor to ever do it.
And Val Kilmer was in a movie with him.
And you think Val Kilmer's the best to ever do it. I'm surrounded by idiots.
So, I mean, literally, we're not going to see eye to eye on everything, but the things that we do see eye to eye on, let's focus on those. Let's focus on the things that we can help make better. And maybe in the end, it will all work out.
Maybe it will. I sure hope so. Can we just all get along? No.
That's what Rodney once asked.
All right, let's talk about why we came here tonight. We're gonna be kind, rewind it. Captain America: The First Avenger. When we come back,
Not the second.
Not the second one, the first one.
You are listening to Pop Culture Pastor.
All right, we're back. It's a Be Kind Rewind for Captain America: The First Avenger. Cody, I gotta say, when I think back to the first wave of Marvel movies, of MCU movies, I do look back at them fondly. But in my mind, I think I remember them in a place where if I went back and watched them, they wouldn't quite live up to like the second and third waves.
Yeah.
Like phase 2, phase 3, as it starts ramping up to Infinity War. Because it's not like I didn't enjoy this movie when it came out. Of course I did. I loved all the MCU movies. But then it just seemed like MCU movies just kept getting better and better. But I think maybe that was just the continuing of the story. Because I went back and watched this movie last night. And I thought, man, I'm enjoying this. This is just a really good origin story. A really good Captain America story. And man, let me tell you, it doesn't get better than Captain America in World War II.
Yeah. So I have always held consistently as an honesty broker that the MCU waves weren't that much different. It really was just the building of story, because you already had a foundation with the first wave, and you had your first floor with the second and third floor. You finished it all up.
Yeah,
you capped it off. But like, if you go back and watch Endgame by itself, like, it's okay.
Oh,
but
yeah, come on now.
No,
I love Endgame.
I rewatched it recently, and I will tell you, I had like the solo tear down my cheek when I watched it in theater. But it was a culmination event. If you take it off by its side or by itself, it's like, it's okay. It's not great. It's okay.
Yeah, I actually think when you get a little distance from them and get away from them, I think Infinity War is actually a really very good movie.
It holds up a little bit better than Endgame. Like, Endgame's not bad. Don't get my words misconstrued.
You heard him. He said it was terrible.
I'm saying it was just good. It was okay. It wasn't Citizen Kane. It was just the culmination of everything that came before it.
It was the Citizen Kane of comic book movies. I hear you. Yeah, so Captain America, the First Avenger. I think this comes, if I'm remembering this right, there was Iron Man. Then there was maybe the Incredible Hulk movie with Edward Norton. And then this movie?
I feel you're right.
Or did Iron Man 2 come out before this movie?
I almost feel Iron Man 2 came out before this one.
Yeah, I feel like Iron Man 2 was earlier than people remember. Anyways, it's somewhere in that first 3 or 4 movies. And basically...
Yes, Iron Man 2 came out before it.
Yeah. So the cool part about this is the origin story of Steve Rogers, Captain America, is one of the all-time greatest. Even it's so tropey. Like, it's got all the tropes of a good hero story, right? But it's so good. And so it's the origin story of Steve Rogers, a little runt, sickly young man from Queens, New York.
Asthma, a poor heart.
All he wants to do is go fight the American war effort in World War II and beat up Nazis. And like, listen, back then they were taking everybody.
They were. But
not with the laundry list of maladies that Steve Rogers had.
Couldn't do it. Wouldn't do it.
And he's trying deceptively to get his way, find his way into the army. He gets noticed by the scientist whose name I cannot remember.
Stanley Tucci.
Dr. Stanley Tucci.
No, it was Dr. Abraham. And then I can't see the rest of it because Google cuts it off.
Yeah, so he's a German scientist who has come to the United States to get away from the evil of the Nazi regime, and of course he just happens to be the inventor of a super soldier serum that he hasn't gotten to work completely yet. He did have one other subject, guy goes by the name of the Red Skull.
Oh.
He is the leader of a very early version of Hydra in this movie. Now, it's one of the changes they made for this movie from the comics was obviously there was no Hydra with going back that far with the Nazis. Like, Red Skull was not the leader of Hydra who was just kind of working with the Nazis. Red Skull was absolutely a Nazi.
Yes.
Working under Adolf Hitler in the comics. They changed it a little bit. It's not that really big of a deal. It's not that noticeable. It kind of makes Red Skull more menacing in a way. He's played by
Hugo
Weaving, who from Lord of the Rings fame and The Matrix.
For Vendetta.
And V for Vendetta. I mean, this dude, what a comic book legend.
Yes.
This guy is in comic books and movies and geek legend all around. He gets involved in the super soldier serum. A spy for the Red Skull immediately kills the scientist as he's turning Steve Rogers into Captain America. And so the super soldier serum in its effectiveness and success will work only on Steve Rogers. Although there's plenty of evidence there to say it was only going to work on Steve Rogers.
I don't know. While I was watching this, I'm like, Steve Rogers and Hulk Hogan are awful lot alike.
What?
Using some needles and getting buff. That's what I saw.
Encouraging kids to take their vitamins and say their prayers. Don't listen to Cody. Cody's crazy. So instead of joining the war effort, though, without his guy, without the scientist there to push, he gets relegated to doing USO shows.
Well, when you are not on Tommy Lee Jones's good side, you will suffer the consequences.
Finally, he makes his way over there with the USO and finds his way going rogue on a rescue mission for his buddy James's unit, who's all been captured by the Red Skull.
I call him Bucky.
He rescues him, Bucky, and then the story just kind of turns into the action adventure it is there with Captain America and his Howling Commandos, which another kind of cool comic booky thing going on here is they kind of take the Howling Commandos, who are Nick Fury's unit, but because of the timing of all this, you can't really have Nick Fury be the leader of the Howling Commandos and setting up the Avengers in the present day.
You can't do that.
It doesn't work that way. And so, but it's other than that, it's the Howling Commandos from comic book lore. You got Dum Dum Dugan in there and some of the other guys. And they go on just this sort of mission to knock out these Hydra plants using the Tesseract to make futuristic weaponry until the final showdown, which Captain America wins, although sort of indirectly, because Red Skull gets sucked into the Tesseract.
It happens.
And then because the plane is loaded with enough bombs to level a city, he says, I got to put this thing down, and he gets buried in ice.
Misses his date.
The end, essentially, except for the final scene is him waking up, just like in the comics, getting unfrozen from the ice, waking up in the present day.
He wasn't a big fan of the lies they were telling him.
Which is still super effective, by the way. That scene's great. So that's where we're at. I wanted to go over, before we get into what was good, just maybe some things you didn't know about the production.
I dare you to hit me with this.
All right. Did you know John Krasinski was initially considered and be the leader for the role of Steven Rogers before Chris Evans was cast? So there's a reality where John Krasinski is Captain America and Steve Rogers, not Chris Evans. What do you think about that?
I think I almost would pay to see that.
It'd be interesting, but
because, like,
Chris Evans is Steve Rogers, though. I mean, he nailed it, right?
Well, he's the version that's in my head.
I forget. You're not a Marvel comic book guy.
But his Fantastic Four?
He was a terrible choice for Johnny Storm.
Him in Scott Pilgrim versus the World as one of the Evil X's. That was delightful. But, I mean, it really is this Steve Rogers run that builds up steam for him to be a leading box office man.
Yeah.
Before that, it was, well, these movies are meh.
Yeah. Yeah. This really catapults Chris Evans. John Krasinski's spouse, his better half, Emily Blunt, was actually offered the role of Peggy Carter, but had to decline due to scheduling conflicts.
And John not being in it.
No, that wasn't it.
That's what I'm going with.
Okay. There were original plans in the story for cameos by Wolverine and Magneto, who were both present in the comics in World War II.
I was going to say, you could easily have Wolverine. Easily, and Magneto should be there, even if it's not like fully powered, well-known Destroyer Magneto.
Yeah, these cameos were obviously ultimately not included.
And
it's good.
Could they cameo with?
They had them written in there. It's unclear. I don't think they probably could have, but they had it written in the script. To depict a frail Steve Rogers, the production employed visual effects techniques, obviously, including the use of a body double and digital manipulation to create the illusion of a scrawny physique, which, by the way, holds up great.
Honestly, as I was watching this, I'm like, did they find my body from like early college?
Were you the body double? The film's 1940 setting was meticulously crafted, with production designer Rick Heinrichs and his team creating detailed period costumes, the sets to authentically represent the era. All that was great. Here's something really cool. Alan Silvestri composed the film's score, but you may not have known Alan Menken, Disney Alan Menken, the guy that wrote like all the Little Mermaid songs and Beauty and the Beast songs. He co-wrote the original song Star Spangled Man for the Captain America's USO appearances.
Nice.
Yeah, so good stuff right there. I was reminded too about the post-credit scene.
Yes.
Was basically a lead-in and then a teaser for the Avengers movie, and I remember being really hype when I saw that in the theater because you knew it was coming, but still to get a glimpse of the Avengers on screen together was just wild back then. That was now it's like passé, but that was wild back then.
It was wild watching this and being like, oh, they actually had meaning to their post credits.
Yeah. Yep. Incredible. So Cody, what holds up, my friend?
This cast. I will start off by listing them out. Chris Evans, Hayley Atwell, Sebastian Stan. All three not super well known at this point. Chris Evans had some shaky movies, let's say. But Hugo Weaving, Samuel L. Jackson, Stanley Tucci, Tommy Lee Jones, Kenneth Choi, Jenna Coleman, who is in Doctor Who as one of the companions. She is in this. Toby Jones, criminally underrated actor.
Yeah.
Toby Jones.
There's some amazing character actors.
Neil
McDonough.
Yeah.
That was the next guy, because both Toby and Neil are like these character actors that show up in everything.
And should be way bigger than they really are. But yeah, you got all these great actors, and it's like, oh.
You got Natalie Dormer just hanging out for like a small 2-minute section of the movie. And that's a real actress. She's just playing like the girl that tries to seduce Steve.
And Peggy doesn't like it.
Peggy, but listen, Peggy scares me legitimately. That girl's ripped. And she's got guns, man. The muscles.
And also she was using guns.
Hayley Atwell, it's wild to think that they almost went in a bigger name direction because she is Peggy Carter, right?
Oh my goodness. We share a birthday.
Who?
Hayley Atwell.
Oh, wow.
She's a few years older than I, but April 5th.
Good for her. Stanley Tucci as Abraham Erskine, Dr. Erskine, is great. The accent, I forgot that he did the German accent, and I thought when he first started, I was like, oh, I was getting ready to cringe. And then I was like, no, man, this is not cringe-worthy. It's perfect.
Stanley Tucci is amazing in everything Stanley Tucci does, and he happens to be Emily Blunt's brother-in-law.
What?
Yes. Stanley Tucci's married to Emily Blunt's sister.
That's wild. That is wild.
It could have been a family affair if we would have just cast Jim from The Office.
I think they went the right direction. I think they did the right thing. Chris Evans is Steve Rogers. Can we talk about Tommy Lee Jones for a second?
Cranky Tommy.
Oh my gosh. Is Tommy Lee Jones is like, he's like the dude you bring off the bench in any sport and just lights the world on fire for 30 seconds.
Yep.
Like, what an steals every scene he's in, Cody.
Quite literally, as I'm watching this, I'm like, was he born for this role?
Just unbelievable, man. Tommy Lee Jones, just the cranky general guy. Fantastic.
Fits perfectly.
Yeah, just so good. What else holds up?
So honestly, you mentioned it, the visualizations for the 1940s World War II era, it seemed very spot on. And so when you get the advanced weapons that are built by the Tesseract or helped by the Tesseract, they look so out of place.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the side props, like Captain's original shield that really isn't his shield, like it looks accurate. The uniforms for the performing for the troops, they look accurate. And the demeanor of the actors in those scenes, it felt 1940s.
Yeah. All of that was so spot on, and it really couldn't have happened without a couple things happening. One is, as you said, the sets, the production design. Roger Ebert said this in his review of this movie. He said, I appreciated the 1940s period settings and costumes, which were a break with the usual generic cityscapes. So, because it's a period piece.
Oh, he's calling you out, people that are using generics.
Yeah. Like, well, most superhero movies do have it just like a generic city. Like Gotham. Not Tim Burton's Gotham. I mean, hey, I'll give this to Burton. Like, that had some character.
It had so much character.
But like in Zack Snyder's, both Metropolis and Gotham are they look like could be any city.
Hopefully Chicago and New York.
Is that what Metropolis is supposed to be? I thought Metropolis was supposed to be Kansas City. That's where it was in Smallville.
I've always envisioned it more as Chicago.
Yeah, you're probably right. That's probably what it's supposed to be. But in Smallville, you could literally see Metropolis in some episodes from Smallville.
Well,
I think they got the distances a little wonky.
A little bit.
A little wonky. But I was saying that there's a couple things that give this film the period piece, the help it needs, and the costumes and the cars and all of that were really cool. But Chris Evans' performance as Steve Rogers, Roger Ebert also said this about Chris Evans. He said, quote, brings a proper earnestness to the character. And I think that's the perfect way to describe it. Steve Rogers should seem like a Boy Scout, but not just because he's playing it or he's trying to be like that. He just is that.
He's going to dive on the grenade, even though everyone else is being a jerk face to him.
So effective when he does that, by the way. When he's like, the guy is willing to lay down his life for everybody. And I just think that was perfect. I thought Chris Evans nailed it. I think that's just it. I thought the action scenes were good. They're a little basic compared to a lot of your action set pieces in today's comic book movies, but you got to remember where this is placed.
1940s in Europe. Not everyone knows martial arts.
Yes, exactly. Cody, what doesn't hold up? Is there anything that doesn't hold up in this movie?
I don't know why, but for me, it would be Howard Stark. Feels a bit odd.
Howard Stark, played by Dominic Cooper.
Like, I think Dominic does a good job. It's just, he feels just a bit off.
Yeah, it was like he was trying to do, or he'd been coached to do, like, slick 1920s guy.
Yes.
Yeah, see, I'm going to invent this. See, and then you're going to sleep with the fishes. See, like, he's crossed with, like, this kind of mobster-esque in, like, a Dick Tracy comic strip kind of type of thing going on.
Yeah, it didn't work for me, but like, I'm nitpicking.
Like, what was Tony's dad's name? So there's Howard Stark,
Dr. Stark.
And then there's the guy who plays Tony's dad, and I'm thinking Tony's dad has no apparent similarities with Howard. Was Howard couldn't have been his dad. That timeline doesn't work, does it?
Howard Stark.
Howard Stark was Tony's dad.
Which, I mean, if you go back to when they go back in the past in Endgame, Howard Stark looks older.
Yeah, but how old is he supposed to be in this movie? I mean, he looks like he's 30 in this movie. Dominic Cooper. Dominic Cooper's 46 years old now. He was born in 1978. So when he played this part, he was what? 31?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, bruh. You telling me the dude who is in Mad Men is that guy? And we see him when, let's see, that must have been the 80s as it takes place in the MCU timeline.
Well, when they go back to the...
He'd be like 70 years old, man.
But when they go back to the 60s, to the base, he's about to have Iron Man as a son.
How old's Tony Stark supposed to be?
Tony Stark's supposed to be pushing 60, evidently. Around there.
I think the timing doesn't quite work.
He also is... maybe he's just being a billionaire playboy type. Howard is in this movie, and then eventually he settles down and is like, I'm going to find me a nice lady, and we're going to have a son, and he's going to be Tony Stark, and he'll love you 3,000.
I appreciate you trying to explain it away, but I'm going to go ahead and say something that doesn't hold up is the timing of the Stark family lineage here.
Potentially.
Yeah. So I'm going to throw that one out there. Anything else you have listed? Because I really have one problem I have with this movie.
That we killed Stanley Tucci too quick.
Well, I mean, that's a comic book thing. He has to die. It's like...
He does not.
It's like Romeo and Juliet, man. Characters that have to die to have the story carry weight.
Honestly, I feel we could have spent more time with Captain's Howling crew or whatever.
The Howling Commandos?
Yeah.
Seriously, after this movie came out, and then later on when they started, like when they were going to make TV series on Disney Plus, I'm begging y'all, give us a Howling Commandos series. You can animate it if you have to. I don't even care. Just give us the Howling Commandos, because that would have been amazing to see the entire Howling Commandos World War II storyline boiled down to like a montage. Oh, bro.
Yeah.
There's so much good stories there. It's good stuff. I'm with you on that one. My major problem with this movie is Red Skull. Not the way he's played. I think he's played great. I think the presentation's good. Everything's good.
Hugo is a good actor.
But you made the choice to have him sucked into the cube, or, I mean, by all accounts, they say he died. Like, Steve Rogers believes he died. Whatever you did, you made it so that, like, he either died or, as we find out later in Endgame, that he was sucked into the Soul Stone where he will remain forever. And I'm just like, Marvel, this is a recurring problem. When it comes to Captain America, Red Skull's it. Red Skull is one of the best villains in the Marvel universe. The fact that he's a super soldier too easily explains why he's aged up a little bit more than Captain America, but he's still, obviously formidable. And I just think that losing Red Skull for any future Captain America anything was just a major mistake.
So it was probably this movie or Winter Soldier that I kind of came to that conclusion as well. And I had beef with the MCU because, like, when you do universe projects, it's building towards like a specific point, but you lose some of the individual storytelling. Where, like, Batman, we're not going to kill off the Joker. Now, sadly, we had to write off the Joker in the Nolan trilogy, but, like, give him like 2 movies at least with Red Skull being like the bad. And honestly, you could have had Red Skull seemingly die, but then like, oh, he's really the mastermind behind all this.
Yeah. Theoretical, you saying, bringing up Chris Nolan and the Joker, if Chris Nolan was going to do more than just the trilogy of the Dark Knight movies, and he wanted to use the Joker originally in more of the movies, Do you think they would have recast, or do you just think they would have done what Marvel did with Black Panther?
Knowing how close Chris Nolan gets with his actors, I think it would have been impossible for him to recast.
Okay.
Or to do anything really with the Joker. But they probably would have had to recast.
It's interesting. It's interesting to think about. We've got all kinds of rumors going on now that Marvel's in the process of maybe recasting a Black Panther. But there's also rumors that say it's just the kid that they're aging up that we met in Wakanda Forever. But it was just interesting. Hey, let's Muppetize this movie, shall we?
Okay.
Muppetize the movie. We're going to keep one human actor and make some Muppets the rest of the characters. Who you got? Who you keeping?
Thomas Lee Jones.
Doggone it.
I need Tommy yelling at Muppets.
I need Tommy yelling at Muppets. Oh, man. Could you just see Tommy Lee Jones with Muppets? He would be even grumpier than usual. Like, I don't think he's acting.
I don't either.
Either he is an amazing actor or he's really grumpy.
According to James Carey, he's really grumpy.
By the way, there was like, I think 4 pods ago, I was struggling to remember who roomed with who. I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering right, was it Al Gore and Tommy Lee Jones were college roommates?
I think so.
So right around the same time Al Gore was inventing the internet, he was rooming with Tommy Lee Jones. Amazing stuff.
It is.
Anyways, go ahead. Go on.
Peggy Carter will be, of course, Miss Piggy. Mm-hmm. Kermie will be Steve Rogers. But then when Steve Rogers gets the super serum, we'll get yoked.
Yes,
Kermie.
Yoked Kermie. That was exactly what I was thinking.
And then I feel I'm going to skip Bucky and go straight to Dum Dum Dugan. And we're going to have Rolf.
Perfect. That's perfect. I had almost the exact same thing as you, but I did have Bunsen as Arnim Zola.
Oh, that works.
Because, yes, absolutely. And then I was thinking maybe Animal as Red Skull.
I can see that.
Those were my picks, but along with Kermit and Miss Piggy, which I think are just obvious choices. But, oh my gosh, take all my money to remake that movie with Tommy Lee Jones and Muppets.
Yes.
That would be incredible. All right, Cody, it's time for Deeper Themes. There used to be this comic. Well, so when you read the old comics, there was all these interesting advertisements.
Yes.
In these old comics. One of them was this kind of iconic advertisement, featured a scrawny guy on a beach who gets sand kicked on him by a bully. The ad promoted the Charles Atlas Dynamic Tension Fitness Program.
Oh.
Do you know who Charles Atlas is?
Vaguely.
He was like a Mr. Universe or something.
Yes.
But basically the fitness program, the whole point of this, it was like a comic strip ad. And it's basically, it claimed it could turn weak, skinny men into muscular, confident ones. And the ad kind of played on this idea of transformation with the scrawny guy becoming strong and then confronting the bully in a role reversal. I cannot not think of that when I watch this movie and think about Steve Rogers to Captain America. It essentially is that advertisement that millions of kids like me who grew up in the late 70s and early 80s remember seeing this ad. I'm pretty sure it was in magazines. It was just all over the place.
So for me, the deeper theme is Steve Rogers being willing to sacrifice it all, even though there's multiple times that the other choice would be easier and it would also help him out. He could say, oh, I'll eject from this plane and let it hit wherever it's going to hit, even if that's New York City. I still have a date with Peggy. Yeah. But nope, we're not going to do that. All these guys are bullies, but there's a live grenade, supposedly. I'm going to jump on it. And so his seeking out the highest virtue just because it's what's right. I like that. And also, don't run from your problems.
Yeah. Yeah, the selflessness thing. Every hero, I think, in the best superhero movies, faces the point of selflessness and sacrifice. Right? With the Dark Knight trilogy, it's The Dark Knight Rises, and Batman is gonna drive the nuke into the Batwing out over the ocean. At least you think so. But eventually he outsmarted it. He got out of it because he fixed it, and he's just faking his own death. But like, that's what I mean is Steve Rogers doesn't have that. He's willing to go down. He's willing to do that. And maybe you can just say, well, that's why Bruce Wayne is so awesome, because he's smart. He outsmarts the enemy. And Chris Evans, or not Chris Evans, but Steve Rogers, maybe he's not the brightest bulb in the shed, but he's the most selfless. Like, he's the one who is absolutely, without a doubt, is going to sacrifice himself for anyone.
Until he gets taken over by Hydra.
And there's really something about that appeals to all humans. We're made for that to appeal to us. This idea of a selfless sacrifice. Of course, I talked about transformation. Identity is a big deal with this. Is Steve Rogers a different man after he gets the super soldier serum? No, that's the whole point of the serum. Dr. Erskine says it takes what's already inside you and makes it greater. If it's good, it makes it great. If it's bad, it makes it worse.
Looking at you, Red Skull.
Yeah, and there's something to that which, like, first of all, that never works in the real world. Worldly power never makes us better. Every once in a while, you'll get a guy who can be somewhat benevolent, a benevolent leader, but not like Captain America. Not like that guy. He's not going to sacrifice. Like, I don't care how much Mark Bezos or Zuckerberg do give to charity. At the end of the day, they're still like, hey, the most important thing is me, baby. We got to make that money.
Yep.
And that's okay. That's human. I'm not bombing on them, but I am saying there's this idea of this selflessness and sacrifice, and then the transformation, but Steve Rogers still being Steve Rogers. That's so really cool in this story. There's also, it's like a pure heart.
Yes.
When we're talking about having a pure heart, his strength comes from his character, not just his physical abilities. And I just think that's really cool. That was mainly what I think about when I think about this story as far as the deeper themes. Anything else?
That's all I got.
All right. Cody, if you were someone in this movie, if you were a character, who would you be?
You're going to be upset with me.
Are you saying you're Captain America?
I am Steve Rogers. There was too many parts I related to.
Listen, contrarian Cody, capitalist Cody, communist Cody, who won't be showing up today is humble Cody. No, go on, Cody.
Conceited Cody's here. No, like,
I can see it. Go on.
For me, it is like, I've never been the biggest guy in the room.
He's kind of scrawny.
I've been socially awkward.
He's pretty awkward.
I mean, I'm not getting beat up all the time.
Nobody's kicking sand on you at the beach?
Like Steve was, but I imagine there were some fights that I probably would have lost if we would have thrown down. So, yes, there was some of that I was like, hey, that's me.
I can see it.
Otherwise, I want to be Toby Jones, but just Toby Jones, not his character.
I just want to be the actor Toby Jones, who gets to play scientists and stuff.
Yes.
Not working for the Nazis. I thought about this long and hard. I'm clearly Dum Dum Dugan. I love that he's got a bowler hat with his like sergeant patch on it.
Yep.
Like, listen, that's not army issued.
Nope.
He's just wearing the bowler hat. He's like, yeah, I know there's a uniform, but I'm Dum Dum Dugan. And that's me. I'd be the guy in the military wearing the hoodie with my patch, my class patch sewn on my hoodie.
Tommy Lee Jones was cantankerous up until, like, oh, you do whatever you want.
Yep. Dum Dum Dugan. Listen, there's some people that just march to the beat of their own drummer, and when they're that valuable to the team, you just kind of let them. That's me.
I like it.
All right, Cody, who's the winner of this movie?
It is Chris Evans.
Yeah, it's hard not to say Chris Evans, isn't it?
Because literally, like I said, Fantastic Four was a flop, and people were saying he was a flop.
Yeah. It's very interesting, his career after this, too, because he parlays it like a lot of people who make it big with like the popcorn movies. Like, look at Will Smith, for instance. They'll parlay it into like being choosier with their the movies they take, the parts they take. They want to take stuff where they can show off their acting range. And Chris Evans got a couple of those, but for the most part, he's just like, yeah, I'll do Red One.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll do that rock movie. Yeah, and why not? He just seems like a guy who's, first of all, he seems like a genuinely good dude in real life from what you see of him. He doesn't make headlines for treating people badly. You never see any TikToks of him being standoffish or anything.
He went to a class reunion.
Yeah, like he seems like a genuinely cool dude, and like he doesn't take himself too seriously, which honestly is pretty appealing.
Yeah.
So he's got to be the winner, although I kind of want to say Hayley Atwell too, because Hayley Atwell goes from unknown to really shouldn't have been in this movie because they wanted Emily Blunt. Then she gets thrust into this role. She gets her own TV show out of this.
She does, which my parents watched.
They watch Peggy Carter?
Yep.
Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D.?
And you know who did not watch it?
Me?
Their son, Cody.
I did not watch that.
And they're like, no, she's really good.
She is really good. And then it culminates, she's in like the new Mission Impossible movies. Like real leading lady in an action movie with Tom Cruise stuff.
I haven't seen those. So.
It was, you know what? It's a part two. The part two is coming this summer, I think. It's not bad. I talked about it a little bit. Yeah. It's not bad at all. And she's great in it.
Like, I don't know how many missions have to be impossible, but
plus I think she's a Chiefs fan.
I hope so.
Who's the loser of the movie?
Okay, let's go through the old list here.
Oh, you don't know off the top of your head?
I don't know off the top of my head. I almost want to say Dominic Cooper, but that's too rough and rude. Do I dare do it? I guess I do. Hugo Weaving.
Okay, Hugo Weaving. How can he be such a geek legend and yet talk about a dude who's not remembered? He spends two of the roles so completely behind makeup most of the time.
Yes.
Although he does appear like with his weird loose skin in this one for a while. But V for Vendetta, and where he's V, completely behind him. You just have to know his voice. And if you know his voice,
it's like, this guy's a legend.
He should be more of a legend, though.
Oh, yeah.
And I think you're right. And then killing him off. And then when he comes back, it's not Hugo Weaving anymore. It's the dude. It's Ross Marquand, the guy from The Walking Dead, who's really good at impersonations.
That dude is talented.
Oh, he's amazing. I'd love to get him on. I'm just like, now do this guy. Now do this. That's all I would do for like an hour of an interview. Just, okay, now do this guy.
Did they choose him because Hugo said, I'm not coming back? Or was it like, oh, we can just get this guy that has a cool sounding voice and can do other cool sounding voices?
I am not certain. I'm not certain about that. I would imagine Hugo didn't want to come back and do that small of a part.
Hugo's not about that life.
Nope. All right. How many on the rewatch? How many? What do we want to rate these out of? I don't even know. How many skinny, gangly Steve Rogers out of 10 are you giving this movie?
I was going to say
with too big of a head. His head looks a little too large.
serum bottles or needles, but I will go with it being about an 8.
Yeah. I don't know where this placed in my memory banks of where I would have rated it after all that first the Infinity Saga comes out. I'm afraid I'd have put it in like the bottom half somewhere.
Fool.
But I think this is a 7.5 or an 8. Easy. I think it's really good for an origin story. I think it's great. I just think it's a great origin story, and it might be that just I'm a little partial to Captain America.
I will say, I think out of the series of movies, individual characters within the MCU, he has the most consistent movies.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because once you factor in Winter Soldier and Civil War, Thor 2 is not very good. Iron Man 2 is kind of mediocre.
And some would say Iron Man 1, but that's neither here nor there.
That person is you, and you alone, sir. Iron Man 1 is good.
It's okay.
All right. This seems like a good place to end the pod before I throw my empty pop bottle at you. That's not quite empty. So in lieu of a sticky mess, we will delay this argument for another day. What did you think of Captain America, the First Avenger? When was the last time you watched it? Have you watched it recently? What did you think upon rewatch? Is Chris Evans the winner of this movie? Let us know your thoughts on the social media posts for this podcast. And, of course, make sure and subscribe, share our social media posts, like it. Do everything you can to help us out. We're starting the comic convention soon. We've got the first one here in about a week.
Roughly Valentine's Day weekend, baby.
Yeah, we're going to Garden City, Kansas, so we need to get out there and grow the community, and let's just keep going with this. All right. I thought you were going to say something there.
I was going to say something witty, and then I had nothing.
See what I'm working with? All right, we'll see you next time.
Pop Culture Pastor. Pop Culture Pastor. Pop Culture Pastor.